My name is Shanna. I live in a suburban house with my 4-year-old son Jeremiah and my husband Darwin, who I've been married to for 6 years. We both share the housework and the childcare, and I work hard every day. I'm blessed with a gentle and well-behaved son and a supportive husband who understands my work life. Jeremiah was able to enter kindergarten safely, and he seems happy every day. Life is mostly smooth sailing, but there's one concern. There's a conspicuous person among the kindergarten parents who acts like the leader of the moms. I noticed her about a month after enrolling my son in kindergarten. It was when I went to pick up my son in the car. That kid's mom, don't you think she's kind of lame? Really, I know, right? I know, she seems so old ladyish. Don't you think she should pay more attention to her clothing? I was waiting near the gate for my son to come out, and these women happened to be nearby. At first, I thought I misheard, but they were gossiping about one of the parents. The central mom was speaking, and her entourage of moms were giggling. Really, it's clear life is over when you give up being a woman. Yeah, just like Jody says. The central mom's name seemed to be Jody. Since my husband and I took turns picking up, I didn't know about her existence until then. Ordinarily, I wouldn't want to get involved with people like these, but at that moment I was too rash. Excuse me, but you really should stop talking like that. I spoke up just as I would if talking to a child. Suddenly, the air froze, and the central mom's face tightened and her entourage turned pale. My son came running to me just as the central mom's trembling lips were about to retort. "Mommy, today was fun again!" Glancing at her son, who jumped over, the woman left. At the time, I only thought, this might be a bit awkward. But the incident happened just the next day. Worse yet, from that day on, I had been in charge of my son's kindergarten activities for a while. It'll be tough, but I think you'll get over it in a month or so. Nah, I think it'll be fine if I manage my time well. I've already talked to everyone at work, and I'll figure it out. Luckily, my job is flexible enough to adjust to my convenience. I specify the schedule to my colleagues for when I'll be away, then hurriedly leave the office. Driving into the kindergarten, I felt a bad vibe the moment I stepped into the parking lot. What? I feel like the other moms are looking at me and talking about something. When I look at them, they quickly look away. I was clearly being excluded. Oh wow, it's been a while since I've felt like this. As I approached the moms who were whispering, they scattered like a retreating tide. I almost laughed, but I held it in and decided to wait by the wall for my son. That's Jeremiah's mom, apparently. She's rather flashy. Quite sharp-looking, isn't she? In hushed tones, their voices reach me from a distance. It's hard not to notice them, even though I'm not sure if they're talking about me or not. What? She's just dressed up all flashy, that's all. The voice was so loud, I inadvertently looked sideways, only to meet eyes with Jody, who was heavily made up. I thought, who are you to talk? But I didn't say it out loud. She flashed a smirking smile as I kept looking. Oh dear, I'm sorry. Did you hear that? Her followers chuckled at that remark. The other moms, watching from afar, became a bit noisy at the unusual atmosphere. I was unsure how to respond, but thinking that backing down would have repercussions later, I boldly stared back at Jody. No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you at all because your voice was so soft. Could you say that again, please? Just as I thought, when I glared back strongly, Jody's face twitched. People who lord over a group and bully those beneath them are surprisingly weak when confronted. But at that moment, she was unexpectedly shrewd. Uh-oh, this is bad. What should I do? Isn't it scary? I wonder if I made her mad. She momentarily backed off, then launched a strategy to paint me as the aggressor. Her followers seemed to catch on, turning their backs on me and whispering. Just as I was about to retort again, Jody's child came running. Come on, let's go. There's someone scary here. When Jody gave the order, her followers started getting into the car. As I watched them, feeling frustrated, one of Jody's followers tripped and spilled the contents of her bag. Oh! With a clatter, various small items scattered within a 6-foot radius. But none of Jody's group offered to help, and they all got into the car. With no other choice, I rushed over to help. I bent down to pick up the small items, and park diary, etc. Are you okay? Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, hurry up and get in. Jody hurried her from the open passenger window. Then, sensing her mother's impatience, the girl next to her started to cry. Oh, I'm sorry, don't cry. Hey, is that notebook that flew over there yours too? Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I went to pick up the notebook that had flown the farthest and brushed off the gravel. Then Jody, who'd been anxiously tapping on the car, let out a big sigh. Ugh, that's enough. Don't talk to me ever again. What? The window whined as it closed. The girl knelt down on the ground in shock, and the car drove off, leaving a cloud of dust. Here, is this everything? Wait, what? As I was puzzled by the girl's sobbing, my son conveniently returned. I asked my son to play with her daughter so that I could chat with her for a bit. Need a tissue? Absolutely. Thank you. From afar, I handed her a tissue as I watched the children play tag in the park square. Somehow, we got into introductions, and I found out her daughter was in the same class as Jeremiah. I was reminded of my own lack of sociability. I also found out her name was Leticia for the first time then. I'm hopeless. I've always just gone with the flow. No, that's fine. More importantly, I had noticed something interesting among the items that had spilled from her bag earlier, a limited edition cosmetic known to those in the know. Do you like cosmetics? When I asked, Leticia's face lit up. Looking closer, I saw that she was indeed wearing makeup. Her technique was a drastic contrast to Jody's. Yes! Oh, sorry, I bought this because it was recommended on an app I've been using. Saying this, Leticia showed me her mobile phone. The logo displayed was very familiar. It was an app released by my company. I was hesitant to tell her when she said, "But I heard this is an app from Mr. McLaren's company. I like it because it has good taste, but I might have to delete it now." What? McLaren is Jody's last name, but there's no one with the last name McLaren among our employees. Do you like cosmetics too, Jeremiah's mom? Just call me Shanna. Yeah, I absolutely love them. Although I had many questions about Jody, I ended up chatting with Leticia for quite some time, and the children were left to their own devices. Before I knew it, 30 minutes had passed, and I ended up giving her a ride in my car. It was the first time I'd had someone I could call a mom friend, and it was so enjoyable to talk naturally. I must have been smiling unconsciously after I got home because my husband laughed at me. It seems like you had fun. Oh, that's true. I made a new parent friend today. I told my husband about the events of the day. He was all smiles while hearing about Leticia, but his expression clouded a bit when the conversation shifted to Jody. He seemed to know about her too, and shared various rumors. Things like she's forced jobs related to school events on mothers who hated them, or harsh words have made her feared by everyone. Apparently, she had once ostracized a mother, isolating her child in school, which eventually led the mother and child to transfer schools. I think you'll be fine since you're strong, but you might want to limit your interactions with her. I heard there's a rumor that she's had children excluded before. Really? Okay, thank you. I was curious about my husband's words, but I wasn't giving it much thought at the moment. After all, I won't be dealing with her my whole life, and she's not a business associate either. However, the situation had turned into something that I couldn't simply dismiss. A while after becoming good friends with Leticia's family, Jody, for some reason, started talking to me. We hadn't even made eye contact since that day. I heard about you. What could she be talking about, coming all the way to the parking lot to talk to me? As I wondered what she had heard about me, Jody smiled smugly. You're the president of some company, aren't you? No wonder you drive such a flashy car. Huh. I wondered who had given her that information. By saying some company, she might not know exactly what kind of company I'm running. When I got out of the car, I was quickly surrounded by Jody and her entourage. With her arms folded, Jody gestured to me. What do you want? You. I'll let you into my group. Let's be friends from now on. I never said I wanted to join her group. Though I thought that, I remembered my husband's words at that moment. If I was the only one being ostracized, I could endure it, but if something harmful happened to Jeremiah, I would never forgive myself. Maybe I should just endure it here and go along with the conversation. Thinking that, I casually responded, "Oh, thank you. I'm glad." I didn't put any emotion into it. But Jody seemed quite pleased with my words. She promised to have lunch with me tomorrow and left in a good mood, leading her entourage. What was that all about? The thought of having lunch with them already made me feel dejected. At that moment, I suddenly felt someone's gaze. Turning around, I saw Leticia spying on me from afar. Since that day, she had been ostracized from the group. "Leticia, what are you doing hiding over there?" I'm sorry, Shanna, I... According to her, Jody had suddenly called her last night and thoroughly questioned her about me. She had accidentally let slip that I was a company president. I'm sorry. Maybe she's planning to take advantage of you." Apparently, Jody has a habit of making the weakest member of the group pay for all the lunches and parties. And until now, that person had been Leticia. What's that about? I once thought it was best to maintain a healthy distance with Jody, but I couldn't tolerate her treating Leticia, such a kind person, so horribly. I decided to change my strategy. We'll be part of this kindergarten for another 3 years. If we have another child, it'll be even longer. Jody's family seems to have many children, and if I'm going to be involved with them for so long, it might be easier to take a stand right now. I was invited to that group, I said. Despair washed over Leticia's face, and she almost started crying. Then we can't talk anymore, can we? Apparently, Jody has forbidden the group's members from talking to any mothers she's ostracized. I'm amazed at how tyrannical she is. No way, that's not true at all. I just wanted to surprise everyone. I really think this isn't good. The next day, the cafe where I was invited for lunch was very close to my office. Jody was at the center, taking over the terrace seating. You know, you look very flashy, don't you? In a good way, of course. So with that and being a CEO, you must be incredible. You must be working hard and earning good money, right? I was bothered by the occasional condescending tone, but that wasn't what I wanted to hear about today. Speaking of which, that app is popular these days. From outside the cafe, I could see a large billboard at the top of a building advertising our company's app. The reason I brought up this topic was, yes, it's popular now. Actually, my husband works for that company. Oh, really? He just changed jobs. He was scouted with attractive terms and was poached. You should come to the job change celebration. Just as I thought, she took the bait. However, there were several inaccuracies in what she said. To be precise, her husband isn't working there yet. They've only offered him the job, and his first day in the office isn't until next week. Besides, he wasn't headhunted or anything. He just applied on his own accord. They probably think I know nothing about it, but unfortunately for them, I'm the most knowledgeable person in the whole world about that company. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to go now. Oh my, you sure are busy as a CEO, huh? Take care. Confused by what was just said, I tilt my head and Jody smiles in disbelief. You know, you may be the CEO, but you're still the newest member here, right? That's why I'm saying you should pick up the check. It seemed that Leticia's concerns were right on the money. In the end, they probably just saw me as someone to pay the bill. The conversation was filled with nasty gossip, and I felt nothing but disgust at the malicious attacks on Leticia. I forced a smile, paid the bill, and left. Everything is in place now. All that's left is to deliver the punch. On the night of Jody's husband's job transfer celebration, I approached him. Mr. McLaren, you're working late on your first day. Boss, I'm sorry, just a little longer. I want to learn the job quickly. Today was Mr. McLaren's first day of work. He was a bit cautious, but just as I felt during the interview, he was a completely ordinary person. How about we go out for drinks to welcome you on your first day? I'll invite the others too. No, I really want to go, but my wife has booked dinner to celebrate my job change. I'm sorry, can we do it next week? I knew he wouldn't come. Besides, I knew his wife had reserved a table at a fancy steakhouse because, coincidentally, I was invited there too. I left the office, picked up Leticia in my car, and headed to the restaurant. You took your time, didn't you? It's already started. Oh my! The star of the show was supposed to be her husband, but the party had already started when I entered the restaurant. Jody's eyes turn to Leticia, and she makes an obviously disgusted face. What a sourpuss! You weren't supposed to be invited, were you? Well... Oh, I just ran into her and invited her. I'm sorry, could you please order a drink? Jody and her entourage have taken over the table seats, and Leticia and I sit at a separate table for two. Jody completely turns her back on us, engrossed in conversation. Would I have been sitting in the corner all alone if I hadn't brought Leticia? Well, it doesn't matter. Oh, right. After talking to Leticia for about 30 minutes, Jody looks back as if she just remembered. A spiteful smile, clearly looking down on us. Here, you'll handle the bill, boss. Her entourage chuckles. I laughed too. It was such a predictable turn of events. Yes, that's fine. You're part of the group now, so it's only natural. Oh, that person will be showing up soon, too. At that moment, I stood up. When I went down the hallway leading to the bathroom and eavesdropped, I heard that Jody's husband had just entered the restaurant. Wow, everyone. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Everyone wants to celebrate you. I'm proud that you joined that company. Everyone has downloaded the app, although they seem to have been eating and drinking quite a bit, sidelining the main person. But I thought, thanks for downloading the app. But is this place okay? It looks really expensive. Oh, don't worry about it. The new mom will pay for everything. Being rich is nice, isn't it? The crowd around burst into laughter. Then, without waiting for me to come back, I heard a toast being raised. I sighed and snuck back to my seat at the edge of the room. It was a coincidence, but my seat was behind Mr. McLaren, and in just the right position so he couldn't see me. But you know what I think? Men and women really should have separate roles, I believe, she said loud enough for me to hear. This was one of Jody's favorite topics. You see, if a mom's not at home, the kids are going to suffer, right? Plus, I don't think women can do a good job in the workplace. Hey, now don't say that. My current boss is a woman, you know. That's my point. I'm sure you'd do a better job if you were the boss. That was the last straw for me. I couldn't help but let out a laugh, and Jody glared at me. What are you laughing at? It's the truth. I don't know what kind of company you run, but that should be left to men. What? No, I'm sorry, but the app my company created seems to be used by all of you, and it's doing great, so don't worry. Saying that, Jody's face twisted, not understanding. Mr. McLaren turned to look at my face and went pale. What nonsense are you talking about? That's enough. I'm disgusted. Just leave the money and go. Hey, you, what are you saying to the boss? Good work today, Mr. McLaren. Congratulations on the new job. He noticed my empty glass, and Mr. McLaren hurriedly brought a beer bottle. As I was refusing it, I could see Jody's face getting more and more twisted, unable to catch up with the situation. Her followers were also confused and murmuring. Mr. McLaren apologized with such force it looked like he was about to put his head to the floor. Ma'am President, my wife has been quite rude this time. I must apologize. No way. This is just unacceptable. Looks like Mr. McLaren will have to be fired. Just kidding. As I joked like that, McLaren clung to me and apologized. I quickly apologized back to lighten the mood, knowing that this would leave nothing but a feeling of harassment. David's mom, you'll still be friends with us, right? You're not really going to fire my husband, are you? Jody, with a completely fawning smile, buttered me up. Her family has many children, so losing her husband's job would be a problem now. I won't fire him, though. No, my child, Jeremiah, was not interested in me at all, was he? Ugh, so sorry. Move, you're in the way, Leticia. Jody, trying to push Leticia away, who was standing next to me. What a distasteful person. Come on, leave this mediocre woman behind. You'll still be friends with me, right? No, the mediocre one is you. Leticia is my dear friend. She's a far better person than you. What? Jody's voice rose, and she went into a wild rage. I apologized to the restaurant owner and paid for everyone's bill. Mr. McLaren, we're counting on you, starting next week. I said that to Mr. McLaren, who was desperately calming his wife, and we left the restaurant. Later, Leticia and I had a modest celebration. After that, Jody's group fell apart. None of her followers wanted to continue associating with Jody after witnessing her behavior that night. She began to avoid me and gradually lost her place in social circles. A month later, her entire demeanor had changed and she became quite subdued. She tried and failed to join other mom groups, but that's none of my business. Leticia and I continued our friendship, and we still visit each other with our families on holidays. McLaren and I have a business relationship, so personal matters don't come into play. Seeing how hard he works, I can't help but think the incident that night might have spurred him on. In any case, I believe that taking a strong stance from the beginning paid off. Perhaps in human relationships, taking the initiative is key to victory.